Well, hey there, welcome to Hiker Homily number 38 for the week of October 8th, 2018. And we're just moving right along in that year, aren't we? We're into October already. That's pretty amazing. Just like a real quick catch up before we get on the topic for the week. Pretty good last weekend, did a little road trip. My wife, as some of you probably know if you paid attention to the videos, my wife has family who lives down in the Central Coast area, the Atascadero, Paso Robles, San Luis Obispo, that whole area right there is the Central Coast. And we love the town of Morro Bay, so we go down there to visit family, make sure they're doing good down there, and then we always use that opportunity to go into Morro Bay. So we got to do that this weekend. That was a lot of fun. We took my wife's grandmother out to a late lunch, early dinner in Morro Bay. We love to do that. It's a lot of fun. It's awesome. So that was good. That was cool. It's a heck of a drive because it's a 4-hour drive for us to get down there. So we just because our schedule is so busy and things like that, we went down there Saturday morning. We left, so 4-hour drive down. Went into Morro Bay and had all that fun. Spent the night and then came back Sunday. So another 4-hour drive. We got home like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. So that can be a tough turnaround. When we have more time to go down there and we have a couple of days, it's not so bad. But back-to-back 4-hour drives like that can be, but it's worth it. We want to do those things and get down there. So we did that this weekend, and that was a lot of fun. So on to this week's topic, and this week's topic is the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail. I want to go over a little bit about what it means to me, and there's a reason for that. I'm not just waxing philosophic here, and we'll get to that at the end. For those of you who don't know, the Pacific Crest Trail is a trail that starts at the terminuses. The first terminus is at the border of Mexico, between California and Mexico, and the other terminus is at the border of Washington and Canada. So it is approximately, depending on how the year goes with the alternates and things like that, trail closers and stuff, it is approximately a 2,650 mile trail that goes from Mexico to Canada, or Canada to Mexico, depending on which way you walk it, because you can walk it either way. You can either go northbound or southbound, Nobo or Sobo. So, yeah, we got that nice big trail sitting there, and in my life, it's kind of always been a thing. The summer camp that I met my wife at was a environmental education backpacking camp, and many years ago, when I was at that camp, I had never heard of the Pacific Crest Trail, and it did actually go right through that area. The camp was in Soda Springs area, which is up there by Donner Lake and that whole area. And the Pacific Crest Trail goes right through there. And I was just some kid who didn't know anything about that. I had just learned what backpacking was. I certainly didn't know what some of the bigger scenic trails were and things like that. And one of these times, not on a hiker homily, but I'm just going to do a history of the Pacific Crest Trail, I think, video, just because it's fascinating. A lot of the big trails are just interesting. The Appalachian Trail, amazing history and stuff. So I was at this summer camp, and these two hikers had come through the area, and some of the camp staff, and this is way back in the 80s, you could do stuff like this. Now you have to, you can't let anyone get near the children because you don't know who they are, and blah, blah, blah. But back in the 80s, you could do stuff like this. The camp staff had met these two hikers who were hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, and they had gotten up there. So they invited these two guys to come to the camp, and in exchange for a free meal and a place to sleep in the staff house overnight, they wanted them to tell all of us campers around the campfire that night about the Pacific Crest Trail and what they had done. And by that time, they were northbound hikers, and so they had by that time hiked well over 1,000 miles of the trail. They had started at the Mexican border, and they were now in the northern part of the Sierras, getting ready to be done with the Sierras and get into the Cascades, and they were heading toward lasted and all that, and all that good stuff. So they did. They told us, about their time on the trail, and I, as a young man, was absolutely just blown away. It totally cemented. I had already done my first backpack trip, and just the thought that you could do that for a long time and just do these long trails just blew me away. Mentally, just amazed me. And that just cemented the whole backpacking thing in me. I became a backpacker because of the interesting experience I had on my first trip, the adventure of it all, and hearing these two guys talk about their walk at so far on the Pacific Crest Trail. Just incredible. And so the Pacific Crest Trail has been part of my motivation for backpacking since the beginning, basically. Backpacking was interesting to me, and my first trip was a complete disaster. One of these times I'll tell the story of that. It was a total disaster, and yet I still decided I liked backpacking, that I wanted to do it a second time, and my second trip was fantastic. And that and the story of the Pacific Crest Trail, the guys hiking it, just totally, that was it. I became a backpacker, and that's how it was. So the Pacific Crest Trail has been there, like I say, since the beginning. And I have walked parts of it here and there. And it just fascinates me. I've walked all over the parts there in Desolation Wilderness and the Castle Peak Recreation Area, all along that part of the Northern Sierras. I've done most of that part of the Pacific Crest Trail. And I'm at a point now where back in the day, back when I was young like that, everything seemed so important. It really did. It seemed like, I can't take 4 or 5 months off to hike this whole trail because, I've got to do this for college and I've got to do this for my job, and my parents would never let me do it even though I'm an adult. They'd find a way to stop me and this and that, and so I let all these things not get me on the trail. And so now here I am at 52 years old, and like, wow, that's my one regret in life, that I haven't done the trail. And so I'm going to try and remedy that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm talking about the Pacific Crest Trail for this week, is after speaking several times with my wife, and she is so supportive. My wife is amazing, how supportive she is. And after watching some amazing people on YouTube who are older than I am, and they are doing the trail, they have done the trail. Rabid Rabbit is one of the ones this year. Captain Dan is another one that I watched. All of them much closer to 60, if not in their 60s, than I am. Did the entire Pacific Crest Trail and things like that. And so I have decided that I'm going to commit at least partially. My only thing is for me, even though I'm retired, I have a real connection with my family, and I don't know if I want to be gone from my family for 4 to 5 months. So what I have decided to do is I'm definitely committing to 2019. I am going to do, at the very least, the desert portion of the PCT. If I end up doing the PCT in, not necessarily section hiking it, but in big sections, so technically I'll section hike it, but I'm not going to do like the 40, 50 mile sections that they've got it split up into. I will do like desert, Sierras, Oregon, Washington, big sections and things like that. So I am definitely, at the very least, 2019, going to do the desert section. Now, having talked to my wife, and she's completely behind it, if I get a start time in the spring and I'm able to do that, by the time I get through the desert section, it'll, hopefully be getting close to summer. It'll be, June-ish and things. And there's no reason for me to return. If I'm doing good, I'm feeling good, and I'm okay with being away from the family, she has already said, then if you feel like keep going, keep going. So I may end up doing the entire PCT next year. I might. But I am committing 100% that I am going to do, at the very least, I am going to do the desert section, which is approximately 700 to 800 miles, depending on when you decide to get off the trail, where in the desert you stop. So I'll be starting in Campo, and I will go all the way through the desert if I get to that certain point and I've hooked up with some cool hikers that I want to stay with, and my body is feeling fine, and hey, you can do it, and I've got the mental attitude going, I may just continue and keep going. I may end up doing 1,000 miles. I may end up doing the whole trail. We'll see. But like I say, I don't want to make this grandiose plan just yet. But I will commit to doing the desert section. My wife and I have talked about that, and at least that. I am going to do that. And anybody out there who's thinking about hiking, I know there's a few folks that I worked with before and stuff like that. We're talking about doing parts of it. You want to join me for part of that or the whole thing? Let me know. Get a hold of me, either here through the email or in comments, or those of you who know me and have my phone number and stuff like that. Text me, call me, whatever you want to do. Get a hold of me. Let me know if you want to join me. But for sure, 100%, I'm going to get a PCT permit, because if I end up going through the whole thing, I'm going to want the permit for the whole thing. Like I say, definitely going to do the desert section, but I may end up doing far more than that, and so I want to have the permit in order to be able to cover that if I end up going farther than the desert section. I have a feeling, knowing how I was when I was younger, if I can latch onto that feeling again, I will end up doing more than the desert section, just because I've always, when I was younger, I was such an avid backpacker. The whole adventure thing was just amazing. And so if I can feel that again once I get out there, get myself in better shape, get my trail legs out there, I may decide once I get to the end of this, get to Kennedy Meadows, and decide, you know what, this isn't over, I'm going to keep going. And my wife has already said she'd 100% support me on that. And that's just amazing. So that's what's going on. That's kind of a semi-announcement there. I'm going to do at least a huge chunk of the PCT in 2019 in the spring, if not the entire thing, and we'll see how it goes from there. And with that, I'm going to start a new training regime. I'm going to be walking and training every day. I have a few more equipment things to buy. Most of my backpacking equipment I have dialed in, and I think will be good enough for the Pacific Crest Trail. I'm still going to look at a few other things, but for the most part, my main stuff is dialed in. My cook system, my sleeping system, that's all pretty well dialed in. I may or may not be looking at replacing my tent. Not sure yet. Definitely, I want to pick up a few other items that I haven't had for my shorter backpack trips. Like, I'm definitely going to want a GPS, emergency beacon. Probably going to go with the InReach. I'm not sure, but probably go with that. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing. There it is. Let me know what you think. If you have any experience. Look at this Max guy over here visiting me. Isn't he cute? Yeah, he's a good boy. So, let me know what you think. Give me whatever encouragement you can. If you're worried, let me know that too. I don't know. As always, you got the email you can reach me on, hikingforhealthca@gmail.com. You can leave a comment below this video, or you can get a hold of me on Instagram or on Facebook at hikingforhealthca. And other than that, that is this week's little announcement / topic, the Pacific Crest Trail. And like I say, it's such a fascinating trail that I think I'll do an actual blurb on it on the channel sometime, just so some of you who don't know about it can learn about how it got started, some of the folks who were key to it, and what it's all about. Other than that, that's what we're doing, and we will see you next week.